Previously on Dual Destinies. What are you two been up to over there? Finding the answer to what you were doing when Detective Arn found you, that's what! And that answer lies clearly in this footage. All we have to do is compare it to the photo that was taken during the investigation. Don't be ridiculous! He's asking for it. This is what changed directly after the incident. Game, set, match. Bitch! Okay, so where were we? The answer is this knob. Ah! That's... Getting a little bit of static on the game sound here suddenly. I'm not sure where that came from. I hope it's not coming through to you guys. Your Honor, please take a look at this footage! Let's see. Take a look at the knob next to the launchpad door. As you can see, it's horizontal. Yes, it is, isn't it? However, when we investigated the scene of the crime yesterday, the knob was vertical. And what does that mean? It means that sometime between before the director arrived and after, someone turned this knob. After the scene was discovered, you were the only one who could have turned the knob. Come on now, Director Cosmos, come on now! Let's hear what you have to say. What were you trying to do by turning that knob by the door? Shut up and tell me where the ticket is. Ah, fine, I admit it. You're right, I did turn that knob. I needed the exercise. That knob is a safety lock, meant to keep the launch pad in place. I was afraid there would be more explosions. So I wanted to move the launch pad away. You wanted to do what? Hey, didn't Ponko tell us something about how they prepare for launch? She said that once the launch pad's fully assembled, it's moved to the launch site. Yeah, true. There we go, that's what it is, I'm sorry. Somehow I inadvertently turned the 3DS sound down. I do that all the time when I'm streaming Fire Emblem. It's like, geez, man. But the safety lock in the boarding lounge has to be disengaged first. I guess that clears up what that knob is for. Oh, so if the killer escaped into the Launchpad 1 corridor, maybe they were transported along with the Launchpad to the launch site. I don't think so. The Launchpad 1 corridor was filled with smoke. I don't think they could have escaped through that corridor. I mean, unless, like, somehow... Ugh. So, like, are there two doors, right? There has to be a door shut on both sides. Or, like, if it's detaching from the building, then does that mean that, like, there's another door that closes on the end of it? Or is it, like, open space to where he could breathe? I don't know. I think they could have escaped through that corridor. So then where did this killer escape to? Unless it really is, like, a hidden compartment here. I guess there are still some things we have to uncover. Well, that we do. Director Cosmos, I request that you tell us about moving the launch pad in more detail. Fine! But listen carefully, for I'm about to give history-making testimony. I'm sure you are. I am sure you are. Okay. He was still on the Segway when he was doing this. I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. He's happy. Why is he happy? Because he thinks the killer's gonna get away? I feared there might be more explosions. So I had to cut the launch pad loose. Surely the only escape the killer had was through launch pad 1. Huh. Confound it! Where on earth could they have gone? Wow, that's weird. It's like a mixture of the past and present coming together. Like, confound it, where do they have gone? Sounds like something he would have thought at the time, not something he would say right now. Ugh. The director seems driven into a corner now. I can tell he's having a hard time hiding his true feelings. Just one final push, then. His attempts to conceal the truth shouldn't be all that hard for us to break through. I was gonna say, that was kind of easy, actually. There's a couple of other things, though. If we keep at it calmly, I'm sure we'll cross that finish line. Okay, well, first of all, hello, Sesame. I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. You make it sound like you were reluctant to do so. And yet when you did it, You felt some joy, as if you were very pleased with yourself. Get out of my head, you freak! How do you do that? How do you know everything as if you were there? Pretty impressive, isn't it? This is the power of analytical psychology, baby. So could you explain why you felt joy when you disengaged the safety lock? When I think back on the facts we've discovered up to this point, I have to believe that you were trying to fulfill some hidden agenda. Ah! How do you know about that, too? I know everything, because I'm more or less a pro at guessing. But you have no proof that I had a hidden agenda. And even if I did, I would never ever tell you. So there! I know they say people regress as they grow older, but you, sir, take the cake. Wow. And how could you doubt a man with such great intensity, intelligence, and integrity?
Silence.
And impatience. It's been a while since you spoke up. You, a man of integrity, don't make me laugh. Prosecutor Blackwell? Came over him all of a sudden. He's sick of it, that's what. You spouted nothing but falsity since you stepped up to the stand. You're not the kind of man that will be glorified in the annals of history. Not for greatness, anyway. Not on this planet. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure which planet I'm on. Unless you consider a greatest barefaced liar in honor. Wow. Liar! Oh, gulp. His words bite harder than his blade. You moved Launchpad 1 after the explosions. My, how naive you are. You failed to realize how even the facts themselves had betrayed you. You know, just a thought, but modern English can be your friend. Ah, okay. And here's a thought for you. Shut the fuck up. Immediately following the bombing, Launchpad 1 was on the boarding lounge one side. The police confirmed this on scene. I mean, I kind of think, like, if he had done it after the explosions, wasn't there, like, a power outage? Wouldn't it take a lot of power to move that big-ass thing? I don't know. I guess it depends on where the power's coming from, though. Launchpad 1 is on the boarding lounge one side. Oh my god! Well, it seems like they could move to either side. Either side. What if? Huh. Okay, anyway. What? Liar! Wait, what's so weird about it? It was there, right? So that means the director didn't move the launch pad? Cuts my judgment for calling history's greatest liar to the witness stand. Let us leave him to indulge in his lies and wall games to his heart's content. Man, he is gonna be so dizzy. But it doesn't make sense. You can't deny that someone turned that knob. And once the safety lock was released, I'm sure the pad must have went somewhere. If we chase down the truth of this issue, we just might find where the killer escaped to. God damn! You're sure it must have went somewhere? We just might find out. Your arguments are nothing but conjecture, bluffing, and wishful thinking. And I'm getting right about ready to go home. Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is. Or are you not man enough to, boy? Boy! Who you calling a nerd? Geek? Haha, talk about hitting below the belt. Youngins these days. I don't understand it. I'm sure Director Cosmos must have moved the launch pad. The knob was definitely turned after he came to the lounge. But the launch pad is right where it's supposed to be. Ugh! Unless... maybe I have it all bass-ackwards again! What if the director turned the knob, not to move the launch pad away, but to bring it back to where it was supposed to be? Oh... But that would change freaking everything, though! What are you blathering about? You don't want to know, dude. What if the launch pad was at the launch site before the incident? And then after the incident, Director Cosmos moved it back to its usual spot. All he had to do was turn the knob to call the launch pad back, and it would be right where the police found it. There goes my hair. Finkel and Einhorn. You made him sigh like Mr. Starbuck. No shit! Was what I said really that off base? It pains me to have to explain how wrong your own logic is to you. However, our great liar turned the knob only after he discovered the crime scene. Yeah, so how did the guys get inside if the thing was at the launch pad? That's what I was wondering. Indeed, the pad existed beyond the lounge when all Astro Wonders made their escape. A fact that has been recorded for posterity on filmless film. Oh, right. So to reiterate, stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is, boy! Ah! Get a grip, Mr. Wright. Focus. We know the launch pad must have been moved, but our deductions and the actual facts of the case are in direct contradiction to each other. Well, maybe the two astronauts never actually boarded the rocket. This footage could be fake, taken with body doubles after the incident or something. No. On second thought, that's too far-fetched, even for me. Well, at least you can admit it. Never actually boarded the rocket? Hey, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe, is she onto something? Prosecutor Blackwell, what if I told you that the two astronauts... Wow, abrupt change of music there. Never set foot inside the launch pad area, but instead just went to another place. And what if, when the director moved launch pad 1 back, it was not from the launch site, but from another place? What would you say then? Cut the existential bull or I'll cut you! You already have. Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself at once. I know I'm right. It was all the other way around from the beginning. Very well, Your Honor. Let me explain. Director Cosmos' reason for moving Launchpad 1 was to hide it, to switch it with another place, to trap the true killer. I think we're going with switch it with another place here. What could you possibly switch the launch pad with? Well, the circle goes all the way around. I was looking at this earlier. Are you be surprised, Your Honor? All it takes is a little thing. I kind of get a feeling I might have screwed up here. This is what was switched with Launchpad 1. The Space Museum.
Take that!
Well, holy shit. So if that's the case, then what were they doing coming out of there? Like, they had just been... In the past, the Space Museum used to be Launchpad 2. It has all the same features as Launchpad 1. It can even be moved to the launch site. Meaning the Space Museum and Launchpad 1 can also be switched with each other. You can't mean... The rocket the astronauts boarded was not the one in Launchpad 1. It was the one in the Space Museum! I don't want the... Shit, I can't think of the line now. What? Boulder Dash! Uh-oh. Oh, that's so confusing now, though, because... Okay, so then which one did the bomb go off in? Are we saying now that the bomb went off? Well, no, the bomb still went off in number 1. But that's not where they were coming from, so... Yet it's the only explanation that accounts for every riddle and inconsistency. This is how the Space Center was just before the incident. I see Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum have already switched places. That's right. And with the two switched like this, the astronauts entered the Space Museum from boarding Lounge 1. This allowed the true killer to enter Launchpad 1 from boarding Lounge 2. Oh boy. Okay. We haven't seen boarding Lounge 2, have we? I don't think we need to. So the true killer entered Launchpad 1. Oh. From boarding Lounge 2, okay. And set the bomb on the rocket, of course. Come to think of it, the door to the Space Museum from boarding Lounge 2. Welcome, welcome. The Space Museum is open to the public every day of the year from 9 AM to 7 PM. It's open to the public. Exactly. Anyone can pass through the door to the Space Museum. There's no fingerprint recognition system on that door. In other words, with the two launch pads switched like that, someone other than Mr. Starbuck could have easily planted that bomb. Aw, shit. After setting the bomb on the rocket, the culprit snuck into boarding Lounge 1 and waited there, concealed. in order to kill Mr. Terran when the two astronauts emerged from the Space Museum. Recall that Miss Blackwell, Mr. Starbuck, and the director all saw a suspicious figure, who, we can suppose after killing Mr. Terran, made their escape into the Space Museum. After that, Director Cosmos switched the two launch pads back! There we go! Without realizing the killer was inside the Space Museum. Okay, so if he didn't know the killer was in the Space Museum, why did he switch them? Oh wow. Huh. The killer then left the Space Museum and made a clean getaway. Boom, just like that. So that means... But... if they really made a clean getaway, does that just mean we're not gonna catch them? Right, Jono, I see you know how to handle the sword, and handle it well. Perhaps I should call you Swordmaster Bluff. Ugh, I'm a seasoned warrior who has cut down many a prosecutor.
Silence.
Not me, boy. But unless you can prove your theory, it's no better than a rusty sword. You know, you gotta get that shit charged with mana power. That's right, you have no proof I switched the launch pads! Somebody needs a better anchor management counselor. If the launch pads really were her switch there. Might be a record of it somewhere. At this point, Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum were switched with each other. So the corridor beyond the doors should be the one that belongs to the Space Museum. Let's see, this is an image of the Launchpad 1 corridor. Do you see anything different when we compare it to the security footage? Huh? That number on the floor. Yeah, it's a number 1. Well, what do you know? It looks like we have proof after all, Prosecutor Blackwell. Well, I'm glad they didn't want me to point that out. And if this is just another bluff... Oh, don't worry. It's all right here. Right in this footage. Ah, I see it. Proof that beyond this door is the corridor to the Space Museum. Very well then, answer this for me if you would. What in this footage proves that the corridor belongs to the Space Museum? Well, it's kind of hard to see it, actually. But that's definitely a 2 right there, is it not?
Take that!
There's a 1 on the floor of the Launchpad 1 corridor. But take a look at the floor of the corridor in the security footage. Do you see the number on the floor behind the astronauts? Doesn't look like a 1, does it? That's because what you see is actually part of a 2. What? Why is it a 2 and not a 1? That's because the corridor you see is the one to the Space Museum. Ding ding ding! What do we have for her, Johnny? Ah! And so that means... the corridor in this footage was not filled with smoke. That's right, because the explosion didn't occur in the Space Museum. The explosion occurred in Launchpad 1, on the side opposite the Space Museum. On the opposite side is my cock and balls. And now that we know the two astronauts escaped from the Space Museum, the mystery from the previous trial of how they got down the ladder is cleared up. Holy crap, it totally is, too! Just incredible. The two launch pads were actually switched. But you'd think someone would have noticed an event of this magnitude. But everyone was down in the basement shelter when the launch pads were swapped back. There's no way anyone could have known what was happening on the surface. Man. And noise level to 0 because, wow, I forgot that we were doing that. Oh, we're going. I didn't realize I needed to advance it. Jeez. No more lies, Director Cosmos. It's high time you opened your eyes and realized you told us the truth. We just did it. We just won. Gah! So it really was him, though. That kind of surprised me. I didn't think that was gonna happen. Wow. Uh-oh. He's gonna... Whoa! I can't stop it! Ah! My beautiful reward! He's just made it. Oh my god. Oh, they're gonna have to repair those doors! Jeez. Bailiff, on your steed and after that witness. Yeah, totally, dude. Don't worry about it. I got Epona right here. Epona, come and get me. La la la, la la la. There you are. Okay, let's go, let's go. So, I see we managed to retrieve you before you came to any bodily harm. Or got bodied. Director Cosmos, do you admit you switched the launch pads? I admit it's true. I'm sorry. I switched Launchpad 1 for the Space Museum. Ah, it's good to hear words I can believe for a change. Before you do, Your Honor, 2 things. First, we don't know if Mr. Terran had prior knowledge of the switch. As for Mr. Starbuck, he was unaware of his surroundings thanks to his medication. Either way, Mr. Terran would have realized the instant he stepped into the Space Museum. Yeah, he would have realized they were in the wrong place. That had been switched. So my first question is, if the Space Museum was perfectly fine, why did Mr. Terran feel the need to put on such a dramatic display? That is a good question. As for my second question, I'd like Director Cosmos to tell us why he switched the 2 launch pads to begin with. Please, I can't. I exercise my right to remain silent. But I will say, my hands were tied. I was only doing what I could to keep my men from getting caught in that blast. Oh. Director is terrified. He must have one heck of a reason for not wanting to explain why. Probably not a good time to try to pry it out of him, huh? What is going on here? Excuse me, but would you mind if I picked up my stars? Without my badge of rank, I'm nothing. I don't see why not. Bailiff, help the director retrieve his stars. Sure thing. Got you covered here, Judge. Or, dude, whatever. It appears the possibility of a culprit other than the defendant has presented itself. Mr. Starbuck, is there anything you wish to say? Yeah. Here it comes. I don't get it. Don't get it? What don't you get? Well, it's a robot that turns into a building, right? Oh. Director, why did you do all that? From the very beginning, you never meant for the launch to go ahead, did you? You tricked us! Mr. Starbuck? Starbuck, my boy, I'm sorry. I can't tell you the reason why. But I had to do it to protect the Space Center. Director! Will I ever get the chance to go into space again? Yes. Yes, of course you will. I won't rest until it happens. I will get you into space again, my boy. Then the dream is still alive.
Silence.
What? Well, here it comes, y'all. Here comes the turn. Or is it the river? I don't even know at this point. Well, this is probably... You're not going into space, Starbuck. But prison. I won't have it any other way. Why are you so hung up on him? Yes, I accepted the launch pads really were switched. And if there were a third person at the scene, I suppose they could have escaped. But I've yet to see proof of this third person's escape via the Space Museum. Oh, that's a good point. Oh. He's right. I don't have any proof. Well, wait a minute, though. They did the animation where it turns the camera around Phoenix before he points. Usually they only do that once you finish the... Starbuck, you will spill everything you know. What? Me? Fingal and Einhorn? Ah! Where'd you get those bombs? Tell me now. If you don't, I will kill your dad. My blade shall feast on your blood. My blade shall feast! Gah! If I'm gonna die, I wanna die in space! I have to do something. Get him an oxygen tank. Solomon Starbuck, prepare yourself. Whoa. Oh, man. Shoot. Haha! Now, you know violence isn't the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell. Detective. That's an annoyingly cheerful laugh. It can be none other than... Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da! Champion of righteousness, Bobby Fulbright here. Alright, butchered that line. In justice we trust. Detective Fulbright! Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Lawyer. I hope I'm not too late. I don't believe we had an appointment. I tried to hurry, but I ended up helping a little old lady cross the street. And then, I had to break up a cat fight. I tell you, justice sure is a full-time job. Was it a fight between cats, or... Probably not. Why are you here again? Because the defendant isn't the culprit, and I came to make sure that justice is served. Yeah, he mentioned something about bringing the perfect evidence or whatever. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Fulbright. I always thought you were a bit touched in the head. A bit touched in the head. But have you finally succumbed? Nope, but it looks like you've succumbed to this phantom of yours. Open your eyes and let the evidence of justice uncloud your judgment! What evidence? Come to think of it, he did say something about fineness of evidence. Yeah, I did. That was my last drink of water there, my last sip. So, thanks you two feel a lot better now. I'm able to get it off my chest. Can work extra hard to find that perfect piece of evidence for you. Good! I didn't think he was serious, though. Well, I did. So what is it, Detective? Is it something that will prove Mr. Starbuck innocent? No. It is indeed. Have a look at this. The lighter. Sure enough. I was wondering about that. The lighter thought to have been used by the culprit, no less. The Space Museum's cleaning robot picked it up. It has the victim Clay Terran's blood, along with his killer's fingerprints on it. What? The whole time? The whole time? The whole time?! Man, oh man. Order! Order! Detective Fulbright, can I assume that the fingerprints don't belong to the defendant? You bet! Mr. Starbuck is totally innocent! This is it. It's just what I needed. Lighter added to the court record, but... Huh? Alright, I present this evidence. He's innocent. End of story. Your Honor, this is decisive evidence that supports the defense's earlier claim. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Okay, with pleasure, Your Honor. Recall where this lighter was found. Based on that, we can extrapolate that after the killer murdered Mr. Terran, they escaped with lighter in hand into the Space Museum. Where they dropped it. The switching of the two launch pads occurred. That's so cool. Then finally the killer left through boarding lounge 2 and made their escape. Meanwhile, Mr. Starbuck was found in boarding lounge 1 after the murder. In fact, the Director Cosmos has testified to, therefore, Mr. Starbuck couldn't have possibly been the one to drop the lighter there.
Silence.
Good going. Oh, but the defendant had free reign of the area until Director Cosmos appeared. Could he not have dropped the lighter in the Space Museum during that span of time?
Objection!
Well, there was blood on it, right? So it couldn't have been dropped until after the murder. Director Cosmos testified that right after he saw the mysterious figure with a lighter, he went into the lounge and found the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. In other words, Mr. Starbuck wouldn't have had the time to double back to the museum. No, Prosecutor Blackwell, this lighter could only have been dropped by the real killer. Grr! Most importantly, Mr. Starbuck's fingerprints were nowhere to be found on this lighter. I think you understand what this means, don't you? He doesn't smoke anymore! That piece of evidence unequivocally proves that Mr. Starbuck wasn't the culprit. Ah! Damn. This does indeed appear to be decisive evidence that proves the defense's claims. As for the remote switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, We can assume it was planted by the killer on the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. No. There must be some mistake. Would he have had a chance to do that? Well, yeah, I guess he would, because, like, they went in there. Ugh, it's really confusing. Frankly, Prosecutor Blackwell, I've been worried about you. You've been chasing this phantom for 7 whole years. I understand your urgency because tomorrow is the anniversary. Don't you dare say it. Fool Wright, you promised never to speak of that. Huh? Tomorrow? What about tomorrow? Given the body of evidence, I think it's safe to say the defendant is innocent. In light of the fact that it was impossible for him to have committed the crime. Yep, that's what innocent means. A few unanswered questions remain, so I look forward to seeing what you two uncover. But for now, this court finds the defendant Solomon Starbuck not guilty. By reason of insanity. By reason of Finkel and Einhorn. Yay! Aw. So happy. How can you not say so happy when you see that picture of Athena there? Yes, we did it, Mr. Wright! Looks like we pulled it off somehow, huh? More like Detective pulled it out for us. Yeah, really. Mr. Wright, Miss Sykes, thank you. And please thank Apollo for me, too. Well, you all are the best. Oh, I wish we could tell Apollo about Mr. Starbuck's verdict right now. Yeah, me too. But that's gonna have to wait. Now that a verdict has been reached, I'd like to bring today's trial to a close. Court is adjourned. And just like that, we're out of here. Wow.
Objection.
I feel like... What? I was gonna say, I feel like we don't know everything here yet, or something. It's too late to object, isn't it? Well, first of all, we don't know who the killer is, which maybe we'll just never find out. It simply isn't possible. Something's wrong. Prosecutor Blackwell, are you dissatisfied with the verdict? I'm dissatisfied with the hamburger that they served in here. Fulbright, what were the results of the fingerprint analysis for the lighter? Huh? The results? Oh my god, are you kidding me? You really want to know? Oh, well, I was in a hurry, you see. And then there was that cat fight, and, well... Oh no. I kind of got carried away when I heard the prints weren't Mr. Starbuck, so... You have yet to read it. Prosecutor Blackwell, can you read out who the prints belong to? I swear to God, if they belong to Apollo Justice, I am gonna... Upon thorough analysis, the fingerprints were found to belong to Athena Sykes. What?! So says the report. How? Just how? Order, I say, order! Miss Sykes, tell me you have an explanation for this. She probably left those fingerprints when she was like 10 years old or whatever happened back then. Wait, how old is she? Here, hang on, we're gonna look and see. We know it was 7 years ago. How old is she now? She's 18, so 11. We just finished proving that this lighter could only belong to the killer. So finding your prints on it can only lead us to one grave conclusion. That's what I'm saying, though. Like, I don't know how they got on there, but I know I'm not the culprit. Oh no, poor detective. This can't be happening. We built up our argument piece by piecemeal. And I don't think any of our reasoning was faulty. So how could it have led to this? Lighter updated in the court record. God! What have I done? Please forgive me. I'm sorry. You're okay, detective. Don't worry about it. You didn't... Okay, so here's what I think happened, alright. Whatever happened 7 years ago, somebody grabbed that lighter and, like, put it in a plastic bag and saved it for this very moment and then dropped it off there. But how could they have known that it was going to lead... Wow. What in the world is happening here? It's like the world's gone mad. I will have order! There will be no order. There will be no order. Order's gone, y'all. Right out the window with your Burger King fries. Confusion spiraled into utter chaos. After all we'd fought for, the truth had turned cruelly on us to accuse Athena of the crimes. Well, how do you feel about Apollo's version of the truth now, Phoenix? Ho-ho! Somewhere, somehow, everything had gone terribly wrong. We had stumbled over the edge of reason and into the jaws of a twisted darkness. Wow. Turnabout for Tomorrow, Episode 5. Save game? Yes, we will. Well, I mean, I could spend all day speculating about this, but I mean, suffice to say, we know Athena was involved in the story somehow. I'm willing to bet that the fingerprints that she left on the lighter were left 7 years ago, and somebody's been hanging on to it all this time. But aside from that, I don't really have much of anything. We also know Blackwell's involved, but God knows how that ends. Next time on Dual Destinies, we start the final case. Case 5. Case 6, actually, if you count the DLC. It's been a long game, let me tell you. See you guys later.